very good morning and welcome back to the class, children. So I'm very happy that my children are following the classes. Today in the science subject, we are gonna just complete the fourth lesson. So what is the topic of the fourth lesson? The brain and the senses, right? So the brain and the senses, we saw the first topic, the brain, and the next topic, the nerves. The next topic, the spinal cord, and then the sense organs. We saw that eyes, ears, nose, and tongues. So one more sense organ we left, that is skin, the skin. So in today's class we are going to complete about the skin. So shall we recap all those things in the fourth lesson? What did we saw in the previous classes? Yes. So the brain is compared to a wonderful computer, and it's a very delicate organ. Delicate means easily broken, right? So the brain, spinal cord, and nerves form the nervous system. The brain, spinal cord, and nerves form the nervous system. So the brain has many parts. So the largest and the most important part of these is the cerebrum, 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 right? So this cerebrum, it controls memory, learning, and the senses. See, and then we saw about this last class itself. We saw this picture of the brain, right? So the next thing is we saw involuntary actions and voluntary actions. So involuntary actions means the actions which we cannot control by our will or by thinking. That is said to be involuntary actions, like breathing and heartbeat. Next, voluntary actions. Voluntary actions are the actions which we can control. For example, writing, running, speaking. So the next one is nerves. Nerves are just compared to the wires. Okay, so it's been running throughout the body. So the ones that carry messages to the brain or spinal cord is said to be sensory nerves. The ones that carry messages from the brain or spinal cord are said to be motor nerves. And we saw some examples, that Sweet's example, right? Then next, the spinal cord. Next one is the spinal cord. So the spinal cord is a bunch of nerves we saw that's been running through the spine. So it acts as an assistant to the brain. In some cases, the spinal cord acts on its own as a mini brain. So only some nerves are connected directly to the brain. So the rest of the nerves, okay, it acts through the spinal cord. That means messages from the body reach the spinal cord, which send them to the brain. Similarly, messages from the brain come to the spinal cord, which sends them to the different parts of the body. From the body to spinal cord and then brain. From brain to spinal cord and then different parts of the body. Okay. Then next thing, the sense organs. So in the sense organs, the first thing we saw about the nerves. So sense organs are called new gatherers, right? So we saw in the eyes that the eyes are shaped like balls. Most of the eyes are hidden in the inside a socket. Socket means hollow, right? And what are the words we saw? Retina, pupil, lens, and nerve, right? So what happens if you look at your eye carefully in the mirror? I told you already that you can see a dark spot at the center of the colored circle. So that is said to be pupil, P-U-P-I-L, pupil. Okay. So what happens? The light enters through the eye, through the pupil. Behind the pupil, what is there? What is located? There is a lens. So unlike the lens of a camera, this lens is made up of tissues, not a glass. Okay. So the lens helps to form a picture of what we see on a screen. So what you are seeing on a screen, so that picture will form on the lens. So the screen is called the retina. R-E-T-I-N-A, retina. Okay, next, ears, the ears. Okay, so the ears I just shown you in the previous class. First, your ear hole will be there. It leads you to a tunnel, T-U-N-N-E-L, tunnel. And then after the tunnel you can see a flap like skin, that is eardrum. So every time there will be a sound. What sound is that? Because the eardrum, it vibrates like a tabla or drum. So on the other side you can see that small bones. Okay, and then coiled tube filled with what? Fluid, some substance. So these also start vibrating. So the eardrum and the coiled tube also start vibrating. Okay, a sensory nerve will be there. See, you can see the nerve. These carries the vibrations from the ear to the cerebrum part, which is there in the brain. So the cerebrum makes sense of the vibration and tells us what we are hearing. Okay, then the nose we saw. Special, what did we saw? So each sense organs have its own sensory, sensory nerve, special nerve cells called receptors, R-E-C-E-P-T-O-R-S, receptors. Okay, we saw that it will be present at the roof of the nose. So it just picks up the smells from the air and it takes into your nose and then send the messages to the brain. So your brain helps you to make out the different smells. When your nose is blocked due to cold, what happens? So much air cannot enter in through the nostril. It's being blocked, so the receptors cannot pick up the smells. Okay, and then we saw that the tongue. Tongue means naak in Tamil. So tongue, in the tip you can feel the sweet, little back salty, and then back sour. At the back of the tongue you can feel the bitter taste. Okay, so today we are going to see the skin. So skin is also a sensory organ. So take page number 17, and then listen here. The skin. The skin has receptors for touch, pain, temperature and so on. Yes, of course. We saw that each sense organ has its own special nerves called receptors. Okay. So skin has receptors for touch. When someone touches you, you can feel it. When someone pinches you and someone slaps you, beat on you, what happens? You can feel the pain, touch, and temperature also. Heat or cold, those temperatures you can feel it because of the receptors. Some parts of the skin have a greater number of receptors. So some parts of the skin have a greater number of receptors. These parts are more sensitive. So when you have receptors in more number in some parts, so those parts are very, more sensitive. Okay. The fingertips and the lips are the most sensitive part of the skin. Not more, most. M-O-S-T, most sensitive part of the skin is fingertip. Your fingertip and your lips. Okay. Sensory nerves carry messages from the receptors in the skin to the brain. So what happens? Sensory nerves carry messages from the receptors. It carries messages from the receptors in the skin. In the skin there will be receptors. It carry messages from the skin to the brain. Carry from the skin to the brain. Now you can see this picture. Okay. S-W-E-A-T, sweat. Sweat pore. Sweat pore means in Tamil, viyarvai. So there will be small pores, small pores will be on your skin. So this is the hair on the skin. So very clearly they have given. This is the hair on the skin, and these are the sweat pore. And here you'll be having inside the skin nerve. Okay, then fat. So this is how the skin looks under a powerful microscope. When you see through the powerful microscope a skin, so it looks like this. You can find sweat pore, hair, nerve and fat. Okay. So till this your fourth lesson, the brain and the senses lesson, gets over. Now it's time to do the fill in the blanks. Okay. Nerves that carry messages to the brain and spinal cord are sensory nerves. Okay. Nerves that carry messages to the brain and spinal cord are called sensory nerves. So spelling for sensory, S-E-N-S-O-R-Y, sensory, S-E-N-S-O-R-Y, sensory. Second one, light enters the eye through pupil. So light enters the eye through the pupil. So pupil spelling is P-U-P-I-L, pupil. P-U-P-I-L, pupil. Okay. Now the third one. Each sense organ, sorry. So each sense organ has special nerve cells called receptors. Okay. R-E-C-E-P-T-O-R-S, receptors. Okay. Then the most sensitive parts of the skin are the lips and fingertips. F-I-N-G-E-R, fingertips, T-I-P-S, fingertips. Next, the receptors for smell are located on the roof of the nose. Where it's been located? Roof, R-O-O-F, roof. Then nerves that carry messages from the brain and spinal cord are called motor nerves. From the nerves means motor. To means sensory. That is S-E-N-S-O-R-Y. Sensory and then motor. Okay. Next, choose the correct options. Breathing and beating of the heart are what action? Involuntary action. Option B. The part of the eye on which images, that means pictures, form is called the retina. So which part, on which part of the eye the image will fall? Retina. Then the lens of the eye is behind the pupil. Where it's been located? It's located behind the pupil. At the end of the tunnel is the ear. In the ear is the eardrum. At the end of the tunnel in the ear is the eardrum. Okay. Which of these is true? All nerves are connected directly to the brain. Of course, this first one is false. Only some nerves are connected directly to the brain. Only some nerves are connected directly to the brain. All nerves act through the spinal cord. So option A and C are false. The correct option is option B. Only some nerves are connected directly to the brain. So shall we move on to the question answer part for the quick recap? Yes. So here I have written. So the first question. What forms the nervous system? So in the first class itself, now also we have the brain, spinal cord and nerves form the nervous system. So what forms the nervous system? The brain, spinal cord and nerves form the nervous system. Okay. Now the second one. What are involuntary actions? Which part of the brain control these? So the first answer. The actions which we cannot control by our will or by thinking is called involuntary actions. The brainstem controls involuntary actions. So, which part of the brain controls these? The brainstem controls involuntary actions. Third one. Name the two types of nerves. The two types of nerves are sensory nerves and motor nerves. Okay, next. Which part of the brain controls learning, thought and the senses? Which part of the brain controls learning, thought and the senses? The cerebrum part of the brain controls learning, thought and the senses. The cerebrum part of the brain controls learning, thought and the senses. Next, what are reflex actions? What controls them? Quick responses. Quick responses are said to be reflex actions. We saw, no? So when we just prick to a nail, what happens? Immediately we will just take or pull our finger, right? Quick response. Controlled. So what controls them? Controlled by the spinal cord, or called reflex actions. My dear children, I think so you all understood this lesson and you can easily answer if I ask you questions, right? So I want you all to learn at home. Okay, thank you my dear children.